The Sabres unveil new uniforms. Oh, love a good new uniform day. We've got that coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast, as well as a preview of Sabres and Flames, our second installment of Sabres After Dark of the season.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Joe DiBiase on the show today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We got a game to talk about, Sabres and Flames. We'll preview tonight's matchup, as well as new uniforms for the Buffalo Sabres. It's a new uniform day in Saberland. So we've got that coming your way as well. We'll look at the Flames lineup, the Sabres lineup, starting goaltenders. I've got a couple of favorite prop bets for this game. In fact, I have prop bets tonight that I like more than any prop bets I've seen for a Sabres game all season. So we'll look at the money line, the puck line, the over-under, and then I got a couple of prop bets that I have to share with people for tonight's game. 9:30 puck drop Eastern Time, Sabres and Flames. At Sneaky Joe Sports to follow me on Twitter, at Locked On Sabres to follow the podcast account, and be sure to check out our YouTube channel, our Locked On Sabres YouTube channel. Always looking for some comments there. There was a little bit of a fight that went on in our comment section the other day between whether or not somebody called JJ Peterka. Just keep it friendly, people. Just keep it friendly. You know, you're able to go back and forth, but let's just keep it clean. Keep it clean in the ring there. We got to start with the uniforms. We have to start with the uniforms. Another goat head. We have another goat head for the Buffalo Sabres. And it's not the red and black one. There is still a red and black one coming, but the Sabres will be wearing reverse retro uniforms for the 22-23 season, as will every team in the NHL. And it is a white Goathead uniform. It is a white Goathead uniform. The Goathead logo itself is white. There is a little bit of that silver in the middle, which you would think is usually a darker color. So that makes it look a little bit weird from a distance, but up close, it looks sweet. And I just love that they're doubling up on this logo for the season. They're going to be wearing the black and red version. We have not seen that unveiled yet. That's probably coming within a couple of weeks, as next month they're going to be playing that. But this is what we got. A white Goathead jersey. You know, the white uniform, what's the most famous goal scored in that uniform? How about, is there an 05? Okay, 05-06, Jason Pominville, of course. The Jason Pominville goal. It's that jersey, but with blue and gold instead of red and black. So a very awesome uniform. I love that they're doing it as a black and red generation guy. But I'm especially happy that they're still doing it in red and black. Because they probably could have copped out of that, right? They probably could have just said to everybody, well, we had to do a reverse retro uniform, which is a spin off of our old jersey, and we couldn't just make it the exact same. So we went with a blue and gold version of the Goathead and not done the red and black. But the Sabres are also doing the red and black. That's coming in a couple of weeks. That's the big one. That's the moneymaker. But this is cool. This is very cool. They'll wear it for a few games. In fact, they did release the schedule already that they will be wearing these uniforms for. The Sabres will be playing the Penguins on November 2nd. So only a couple of weeks away. In fact, that is 2 weeks from Wednesday. So 2 weeks from yesterday will be the first time they wear these reverse retro uniforms. They will be playing the Boston Bruins 10 days later in these uniforms on November 12th. And then again on November 25th against New Jersey before I think there's 4 or 5 others throughout the rest of the season. So really cool. Love the Sabres are doing this, and I look forward to seeing the red and black uniforms. There were a lot of other really cool ones. San Jose doing a California Golden Seals style jersey I thought was really neat. The Penguins going back to what would you call it? The Robo-Pen, the robotic penguin look that Jágr and Lemieux would have worn in the late 90s. That one was a really cool one. What else? We had Tampa Bay with the storm scene, where you've got the waves on the bottom of the jersey and you got the clouds up on the shoulders. Love the fact that they did that. The Devils doing Colorado Rockies uniform or colors, but with the Devils logo, I thought was sweet. And then the other one that I really like, just because of the idea, is Montreal. Montreal doesn't have a lot of retro uniforms to go for. In fact, they did this a couple of years ago, and they got as creative as they could. They wore their current uniforms, but they reversed the colors. Blue base color, red stripe. Once you did that, Montreal's kind of out of ideas. They've worn 2 jerseys their entire existence. So what does the Canadiens do? They wear the Montreal Expos jerseys. But instead of the Expos logo, they've got a Canadiens crest right in the middle. That was awesome. That was really creative. Pay homage to their former baseball team. And they look cool. That little, powder blue and then the navy blue stripe, really sharp. Montreal did super well at that one. So really cool to see. I love this by the NHL. They should do it every year. Every year. Give me a new jersey. Forced jersey every year. Get creative, everybody, including you, Lou Lamoriello, and the Islanders, who always fight against this. They, by the way, did the Fishermen's. So those are back. They did Navy, though. That's fine. You take what you can get, I guess, on the Islanders. They're boring. Lou Lamoriello doesn't want to do anything. All right. We'll get to tonight's game. Sabres and Flames. It's a 9:30 puck drop. And we do have lineup notes for the Sabres. It includes Eric Comrie in goal. One of my favorite prop bets for later includes Eric Comrie. A second consecutive start. I like it. Keep him rolling. Third consecutive start for Eric Comrie. Played the Florida game, Edmonton game, and now he is getting this one. And I like that Granato is giving him an opportunity to take hold of the net, not let go, because, again, he has the best possible outcome for a Sabres goaltender this season. Looking at some of the lines for tonight's game, they all look about the same from the Sabres game against Edmonton. Tage Thompson centering Alex Tuch and Jeff Skinner. Casey Middlestat centering Rasmus Asplund and Victor Olofsson. Dylan Cozens between Vinny Hinostroza and J.J. Peterka. And then Zemgus Girgensson centering Peyton Krebs and Kyle Okposo. I thought Krebs might get the snap and get benched for this game in favor of Jack Quinn. Quinn will, it appears, sit out his second consecutive game in out west. Ilya Lyubushkin, that was the one player you might have been thinking about due to injury. Lyubushkin is expected to be a scratch. He was skating as an extra at practice. That means that Casey Fitzgerald is in line to make his season debut for the Sabres. So the pairings go Samuelsson and Dahlin, Owen Power and Henry Okiharu, and then Jacob Bryson and Casey Fitzgerald. I would expect Fitzgerald and Bryson to get a very limited amount of work, 12 to 16 minutes of ice time, somewhere in that range. So that's the Sabres lineup for tonight's game. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look at the Flames. And also, I've got a thought on what the Flames did this offseason. I just respect the hell out of what they did in the offseason. I'll explain when we come back. We'll look at their lineup, who's in goal for Calgary, before we get to our betting preview for tonight's game between the Sabres and the Flames. Back after this, Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase. We are brought to you by betonline.net. When we look at our odds later on for our betting preview, they will come straight from betonline.net. I made one of my fantasy lineup decisions today based on BetOnline and some of their over-under prop bets. I'm in a dynasty fantasy football league where I am starving for quarterback play. I had Carson Wentz, and he was terrible, and I had Winston, and he was okay, but both guys are now injured. So I'm out here choosing between Davis Mills and Taylor Heineke. Couldn't figure it out. How am I supposed to know who's going to have more points between Davis Mills and Taylor Heineke? It's just the lamest fantasy decision of all time. So what do? Go to BetOnline. I look up Davis Mills. Oh, over under 230 passing yards. All right. How about Taylor Heineke? Over under 210 passing yards. Okay, Heineke, by the way, plus 160 to have 2 or more touchdowns. Meanwhile, Davis Mills plus 120. All right, I'm going to go Davis Mills. I'm starting Davis Mills, and I do that a lot with BetOnline. They are my fantasy tiebreaker when I cannot make a lineup decision. BetOnline remains your continued source. All your sports wagering information, live betting, up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. Major League Baseball playoffs, MMA, boxing, golf. You've got boxing next week, by the way, Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. They got all the odds and information you need for that card next Saturday. Head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. When you're done with us, be sure to make your second listen Locked On Game to Game. NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on the NHL stream, the channel, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We've got a matchup tonight between the Sabres and the Flames. 9:30 puck drop, Sabres after dark. And before we get to the Flames lineup, Calgary at 3-1, having a good start to the year. I have mad respect for what Calgary did. I don't think if I were a GM, I would have done the same of what they did in the offseason. I'm a teardown guy, right? I like to see things torn down and then you build it back up. That's where you maximize your window to win. That's where you maximize your ceiling as a team. But that's usually the route a lot of teams take. Calgary this offseason, Johnny Gaudreau says, sayonara. I'm going to Columbus. Columbus, of all teams. But Gaudreau, at 28 years old, franchise cornerstone player, poof, gone for absolutely nothing. Matthew Tkachuk, 25 years old. I don't want to be here long term. I'm not signing a contract extension. All right, now Calgary's got a decision to make. One of their best players, if not the best player, Gaudreau, is gone. And now their other best player, Matthew Tkachuk, wants to be gone. And you're going to lose him in a year. You're going to lose his rights in 1 year's time. He can sign a 1-year deal and you walk him to free agency. So what does Calgary do? A lot of teams in that spot, what would they do? They would tear it down. They would trade their veterans, Jacob Markstrom in goal and Michael Backlund and, Elias Lindholm, Tyler Toffoli. They would have just sold it all off and they would have got picks and prospects and, tried to start over. Calgary says, you know what? No, we're ready to win. We've got pieces. We've got Jacob Markstrom, who's a solid goaltender, and he's 33 years old, right? He's a little bit older, but he's great. We've got Michael Backlund, who's a good, solid middle six center. We've got Tyler Toffoli, who's a 30-year-old but very good winger, scoring winger, 30 goals on the second line, first line. We've got who else was on the Elias Lindholm at 28 years old, right in the middle of his prime. He's still a really good player. Andrew Mangiapane turned out to be a really nice addition for them, or revelation for them, I should say. They didn't add him last season with a big goal-scoring season. You know what? Let's go all in. Let's push our chips to the middle. No, our window for winning won't be as long as it would have been with Matthew Tkachuk and with Johnny Gaudreau, 25 and 28 years old, respectively. But we can win, and we can win right now. So you know what? We're going to replace Matthew Tkachuk. We're going to trade him to Florida, not for picks and prospects, although they did get a first-round pick in this deal as well. We're going to get back Jonathan Huberdeau at 29 years old and going into the final year of his contract. We're going to go get Mackenzie Weegar from Florida at 29 years old. Both needing contracts, both needing deals that teams don't like to give out, which are, you're 29 and you want an 8-year contract, which means I am eating 3 or 4 years of a bad deal in 99% of cases. Calgary says, screw it. We know we're going to hate 4 of these years, but you know what? Yes, we'll give you the big contract you want, Jonathan Huberdeau, over an 8-year deal. Mackenzie Weegar, yes, we'll give you a long-term deal, knowing in both situations that we're probably going to regret a few years of this contract. It's going to be an anchor. And then they went a step further, replacing Gaudreau, who they lost in free agency, with Nazem Kadri. Nazem Kadri, 3 years older than Huberdeau and Weegar, at 32 years old. They gave Nazem Kadri a 7-year contract at 32 years old. And they will certainly regret multiple years of that contract. But they are pushing their chips to the middle. And while I don't love it, it's not the greatest asset management. Man, do I respect the stones that it takes to do that, when not a lot of GMs will do that in the NHL. Kadri, by the way, is their leading scorer through 3 games with a goal and 3 assists, 4 points in 3 games. Coming off a year last year, we had 87 points in 71 games. Calgary is a good hockey team. They're 3-1. They beat Vegas the other night. They have got a lot of good veteran talent that's right either in the middle of their primes or just nearing the end of their primes. And no, their window for winning is not very long. It's probably only 2 or 3 years max. In fact, 2 years is probably more realistic for them before things start really getting old and they have to really, try to do something futuristic-wise with prospects and whatnot. But in the meantime, they're a solid team. They're a contender. I legitimately believe with that goalie and that roster, they are a contender. They could be someone that pushes Colorado. I don't think they could beat Colorado in a playoff series, but I think they could push Colorado, win a round, and then probably run into a buzzsaw of a wall that is the Avalanche. So, mad respect to the Calgary Flames. Their lineup tonight against the Sabres. First line, Elias Lindholm, centering Tyler Toffoli and Jonathan Huberdeau. That is a solid first line. Second line, Nazem Kadri, centering Dylan Dubé and Andrew Mangiapane. Third line, Michael Backlund, centering Blake Coleman and Trevor Lewis. Fourth line, Kevin Rooney, centering Brett Ritchie. And there's Milan Lucic, still hanging around on that stupid contract, just trying to get by in today's NHL as a fourth liner. The blue line for Calgary, Mackenzie Weegar, solid top pair defenseman, with Chris Tanev, Noah Hannafin on the second pair with Rasmus Andersson. Third pair, former Sabre Nikita Zadorov with Michael Stone. And it will be Jacob Markstrom in goal. It'll be the first starting goaltender that the Sabres face on the season. They face 3 backups to begin the year. They will face their first starting goaltender in Jacob Markstrom. We'll take a timeout here. When we come back, look at some of the betting lines for Sabres and Flames, and I've got 3 prop bets that I love for this game. So come back for that here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Welcome back to the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. I've got a betting preview for you from betonline.ag. It involves a couple of prop bets, especially that I am in love with for tonight's game. So head over to BetOnline if you're looking for more of the betting props. Starting off with the puck line. The Sabres, of course, an underdog on the road, plus a goal and a half, but it's even money. Minus 101 is your puck line. The Flames, minus a goal and a half at minus 119. So again, if you're not a betting type, minus 119, you'd have to bet $119 to make 100. For the Sabres, minus 101, you have to bet 101 to win 100. So basically even. The money line for this game, Sabres plus 269. So you would bet 100 to win 269. The Calgary Flames minus 305. Sabres a big underdog, a bigger underdog than they were against the Oilers on Tuesday. I think a lot of that has to do probably with the fact they're playing the best goaltender they've played of the year by far in Jacob Markstrom. The over-under for this game, by the way, because of the goaltending, I would imagine, is half a goal lower. We're at 6.5. It's been at 7 for the last 2 games. It's at 6.5 here. Plus 102 on the under, minus 113 on the over. I don't really have a strong opinion of any of these 3. I think the over-under is almost a little dangerous because I'm tempted to take the over, but I trust both of these goaltenders. So I think I would stay away from a lot of that. I'm going to stay away from a lot of that personally. But prop bets that I like for tonight, starting with Dylan Cozens. Dylan Cozens, who has yet to score this season, has been racking up the scoring chances. He's been doing it on the rush. He's been doing it going to the front of the net at 5-on-5, and he's been getting chances while on the power play, that high slot wrist shot that Cozens has. And I still question whether he has the finishing ability to score, 30-plus goals in the NHL, even when he's at his best in his career. But he's certainly getting the chances. And so far, through 3 games, he's got 7 shots on goal, so he's getting his shots. He's getting his shot attempts. And so far this year, what is he? He's 5th on the team in shots behind Skinner, Olofsson, Tuck, and Dahlin, actually the leader at 13. And that brings me to my next favorite prop bet of the night, and that is Rasmus Dahlin at plus 500 as an anytime goal scorer. He has the most shots of the team, 13 through the season. He plays the most minutes. He's getting point shots on the power play, and he's got 3 goals in 3 games. And no, that's not predictive as to what will happen tonight, but there's a record to be had here. No player in NHL history, I think, unless you go back to like the 1910s when there were teams that, you've never heard of, like the Toronto Arenas maybe were one of them. In NHL history, no defenseman has ever opened up a season with 4 goals in the first 4 games, scoring a goal in each of the first 4 games of a season. And Dahlin could do that tonight. And I wonder if Granato knows that, and wants to get him that record. If the Sabres are up late in the game and there's an empty net, Dahlin on the ice, there's a concentrated effort to get him that goal. And again, even if there isn't a concentrated effort to get him the goal because of the record, he is on the ice more than anybody for the Sabres. He's on the power play more than anybody for the Sabres. And right now he has more shots than anybody on the Sabres. So I am going with Dahlin. And his finish looks good so far this year with a little curl and shoot. So Rasmus Dahlin plus 500 anytime goal scorer. And then the third prop bet I love for tonight involves Sabres goaltender Eric Comrie. I love Eric Comrie to have 35 or more saves. And that line you could get at BetOnline for plus 104. 35 plus saves for Eric Comrie. I'm in. I think the Flames are going to have a lot of shots. It's 13 more, by the way, than he faced against Edmonton. So we're talking, get me 35 to 40 shots on goal, and he should be in good range to hit that number. And he's been good, so I would expect him to make a lot of those saves if he faces around 40 shots. So Eric Comrie at about even money, plus 104 to have 35 plus saves. That is going to do it for us here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Enjoy the game. Sabres After Dark between the Sabres and the Flames. A 9:30 puck drop means that you can enjoy a little football if you want between the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals, who I believe get rolling at 8:15. So you got about an hour and a half before the Sabres After Dark gets rolling. So enjoy the game. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll recap it, and we'll see if there's anything else Sabre-wise to talk about. Maybe another jersey. I wonder when those black and reds are coming. November, I think, is when they probably get announced. But anyways, let me know what you think of the new uniforms. We'll read some comments from their YouTube channel and the Twitter account at Locked On Sabres on tomorrow's episodes. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the game, and we will talk to you tomorrow here on Locked On Sabres. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Now we're going to make your second listen, Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the fantasy expert. It gives you the fantasy edge to keep you ahead of the competition with daily updates of news, analysis, and advice Monday through Friday. It's available on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you on Friday. Later.